Welcome, everyone, to yet another edition of our Conscious Coaching Conversations. My name is Divya Martyn. I head the client and community engagement for Shinomics. I have with me my friend and colleague, Manisha Singh, who heads coaching for Shinomics. Do you want to say hi, Manisha?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining in.
Yes. And today we're talking about a topic that, we really enjoy talking about. It is on the theme of mindful networking, which is kind of a theme for Shinomics this month as well, because we're really diving deep into what does it mean to build relationships, of course, but how does mindfulness play a role in these relationships that we're building? And we've been talking about it. We talk to lots of people as well, who are in the space of networking, who want to be better networkers, or who want to create more stronger networks. And we'll come to that towards the end of today's video also. But when we were talking about it, we realized mindfulness adds so much depth to what can normally be considered a very transactional process, right? When we do meet someone, it can become, oh, okay, hi, what can I do for you, or what can they do for me kind of situation. But mindfulness really brings various levels of depth into the relationships we can build. And today we're going to talk about a small framework that we thought really does help a person build stronger networks, and also build networks that are more based on the quality of the relationship than the quantity of number of people that they have around them. So there are 3 points that we will be covering today. Manisha, would you want to share the first point in that?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Divya. And if you indulge me, I'll just take a moment to give a little bit of backstory about the first point and why, I feel this is so helpful to people like myself who are shy. Um, Growing up, I didn't find it easy to network or socialize because I came from a very academic background and where people spoke only when spoken to, and small talk was like the lowly stepchild of real deep conversations. But when I started working, where I got stuck was that okay, still there is small talk. How does one enter into a conversation? And I think that's where the first point, which is starting with giving or leading with generosity, really helped. Um, and how I understood that was that okay, I was finding it difficult to approach people because there was this mind block that I had, is that people will think, okay, what does she want? Um, but giving was easy, you know and also, while I was quiet, I had other interests like biology and physics and all of that, and I started seeing networks everywhere. Like if you look at the human body, each cell is a network of proteins that forms a machinery, and then that's the basis of our survival. And I was like, okay, I fit in somewhere into the chain. So how can I be a part of the machinery in the human system of networks? What can I give? And that question really enabled me to open up with people and start from a place of giving. One book that really helped me was Never Eat Alone. It's by Keith Ferrazzi. And from his work within that book and outside the book, there are like three levels which again tie in beautifully with mindfulness. And at the most fundamental level, it is that okay, how do you make people feel in your presence? How do you make them feel about yourself? you know are you generally giving them your attention, and listening to them mindfully? Are you paying compliments when you really feel that someone's done something good? And I think the beauty is you can do that digitally also. I think LinkedIn is a great place to do that. If we like somebody's work, to really leave a nice comment and start with that. The second layer is really related to our work, that can we give more in value than expected? Are we deep diving enough to create that real impact, and come from a space of not measuring that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I do only this much, just a little bit extra. Um, And the third piece is really at a personal level, that when we meet somebody we want to cultivate a relationship with, are we really thinking about how do we create value in their personal lives? To give you an example, I have been the recipient of a lot of generosity. When I was in a situation where I needed help for my dad, um, medical help, and there were so many people who offered help in terms of connects of wonderful doctors, and that really created an impact. But that takes, going to another level and understanding what's going on with a person. Where do they, where do they need help? It could even be, what are they passionate about? Is there a cause that they care about, and can we contribute to that? So those were the three levels where I think mindfulness ties in beautifully, about being present, being curious, and coming from a place of giving. um, and one thing that has also helped me is to not look at it mathematically and keep scores, because that is a transaction and not a relationship. So it's like giving wholeheartedly. And yeah, my next point of the framework, Divya, would you like to go for it?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Manisha. And I'm so glad you brought in how, even in the digital world, this is possible, right? This whole element of being generous in giving in any relationship is still possible, even if we don't get the opportunity to meet someone in person anymore. We can still use LinkedIn or any other social media platform to give, essentially, and to support in some way or the other, right? So that was a great point that you made there. The second part of this whole framework in mindful networking that we came up with was courage. Because, like Manisha was saying, how when she was young, she was very shy, and so it took certain attempts to be able to approach someone and speak to someone. I would say that many of us are like that. Not all of us are vibrant personalities who are so outgoing, and who can easily go and talk to someone they've never met before. And so, courage in forming those bonds with different individuals who you think are inspiring. It could be individuals you want to learn from, or it could be peers that you feel like you would get along with. Whoever it is, it takes an element of courage to really reach out to them and connect with them. And a funny story on that regard, actually. So I've been with Shenomics now for more than 3 years. But the first time I reached out to Bhavna, who's the founder of Shenomics, was for me a step of courage, because I had been on a career break for almost a year, and I was really trying to find a place where I felt, one, of course, that my skills would be needed and appreciated, but also find an organization I would want to work with. And then I saw the whole vision and mission of Shenomics, and I loved it. And I never met Bhavna before. I had never even seen her before. I'd only seen her on social media. And I just emailed her saying, hey, do you think that we could, speak? And that for me was a courageous step, because I'd never done something like that before. And see where I am now. Who would have thought? But, like Manisha was saying, approaching a relationship or any kind of connection with that element of how can I help them? And then also being a little fearless about it. I think both of them really go well and hand in terms of building those strong bonds and relationships that can help you as well at some point in the future. So that's the second point. And Manisha, over to you to talk about the third one.
Okay, the third one is really beautiful in itself, because it's simple and yet it lends so much momentum to the first two, and it's gratitude. Um, so, maybe both of us, as well as everyone listening to us, if we take a moment and really look at our journeys and think about how we've reached where we've reached, we will realize that everything that we've attained has, in some way or the other, come through people. I mean, in early life, it could be parents, teachers, and but after coming into our working life, it's colleagues, mentors, friends. I mean, I can right now think of, uh, people who believed in me and helped me grow in various ways, through teaching, through, mentorship, um, giving me the courage to apply for roles and take up challenges. Um, but we don't take enough time to celebrate that gratitude, because when we do, I think it just shifts the energy so much, and we feel like giving and leading with generosity, which was the first point, and also to step up and be audacious to ask, because we have evidence that people have helped us. And I think that's why I feel from time to time just taking a pause and being grateful is is so important in this entire framework that we've come up with of you know giving and generosity, of courage, and gratitude. And I think, like we were talking about, the digital world, I think it's so beautiful because a platform like LinkedIn gives us an opportunity to say a public thank you to people who we may remember today and from years back, and would want to really celebrate how they've contributed to our journey. So I think, Divya, why not both of us also, when you post this, when this LinkedIn live is done, post a comment to those who've contributed to our journeys, and I would invite everyone else watching this also to do the same, to tag someone who they feel has really contributed to their journey so far. And you really use the digital space to celebrate gratitude. The other thing that I would want to say is that I think in the last 20 years, as I was looking at my journey, I feel I've come a long way, but it wouldn't have been possible without help. There were people who I saw who were good at creating nurturing relationships. I've learned from them, learned from mentors, learned from coaches. And typically, how one would frame this would be, how do I build better relationships at work, better collaboration, how do I create more cohesive teams? And that's how it shows up in coaching as well. And so I did want to mention that typically, there may be certain ideas that we have about what coaching is for. That probably it's about identifying the next role, creating a vision. But this is also an area where I think coaching really works wonders, and it ties up with goals, and vision as well, because relationships are key to achieving those goals and visions, because of how we live as a society, and how we function. How has it been showing up in your coaching, Divya?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And I think you bring up a very valid point in terms of also seeking help and seeking inspiration also many times from people around us, right? Because I remember in one of our mentoring circles, a senior leader who came in shared how every year she sends some 350 emails to people in her network as a New Year wish or as a season's greeting kind of wish, simply in her effort to be in touch with people. And that's so inspiring if someone at such a senior level takes that kind of effort to maintain those relationships. Just imagine how strong those relationships might will evolve into, right? And specifically in coaching, you're right, it does, because like you said, people do bring up elements of how do I really build the right kind of relationship with my team, because to be especially when you are leading a team, to be a team leader, it doesn't matter how great you are at your job. It really matters how well do your team gel with you, right? But also in terms of how does how do they build those relationships with their managers or with senior leaders in their own organizations? How can they really create visibility for the role that they are playing also? And how can they create that network that will help them with the visibility? So those are elements that do come up in coaching as well, especially when when you have someone who is ambitious and someone who does have large and bold dreams for themselves, it helps to be able to create the right kind of relationships at every point in your journey, because those relationships are the ones that are going to help you to grow as well eventually. um, yeah, Manisha, anything that you'd like to add, anything before we say thank you?
I think you covered it. Like you very rightly said, at each stage there is this need to cultivate relationships and to create supportive networks, and that's where in our work, both in terms of the leadership journeys that we curate as well as the coaching that we do, we do a lot of work around that. Um, and yeah, so I think I think we covered it all. So just to summarize, starting with generosity and how we're being present in terms of the work we do, going the extra mile, and also in terms of building that personal connect, getting curious, knowing what's important to the person we're trying to build a relationship with, being audacious in approaching people who we want to build a relationship with or want to learn from, and being grateful. So yeah, and yeah, we would love to be of value if any one of you want to brainstorm or want our thought partnership, and would love to see your comments about your reflections on who you're grateful for to. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing all the comments of those who've supported you in your journeys as well. And we'll be back with another conscious coaching conversation soon. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.